هلا بالخميس هلا بالخميس ويكند عيال هلا بالخميس هلا بالخميس هلا بالخميس ويكند عيال هلا بالخميس.
بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن استنى بسنة إلى يوم الدين ثم أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. هلا بالخميس. It's ليلة الجمعة. We're about to usher the best day of the week into our lives, and we are about to wear our Sunday best. And I think I say that every week because I'm just so excited, Moulana Ashik, to be able to dress up, smell nice, and meet the brothers in the masjid. How's the week been for you?
Alhamdulillah, it's been good,
Alhamdulillah.
I would have loved to rest some more. Tuesday's
back to work. School holiday.
Yeah, Tuesday's back to work, alhamdulillah. So we're making, I'm taking these few days, inshallah, the last few days, I'm taking it a bit slow, chilling, cooling down, inshallah, and resting, spending time with the family. And on Sunday, inshallah, I'll be doing a run, inshallah, a race.
Inshallah.
And I'm probably going to represent Ilm Hub podcast. I would like to have it on my t-shirt or something, inshallah.
Inshallah, we can work on something, inshallah. While it's been a very exciting week for educators in South Africa, there's this video I saw of Shaykh Ishaq al-Huwaini where he was crying profusely, speaking about the death of the ulama, because another great alim was lost this week from Egypt, Shaykh Osama Abdul Azim. And he was like called the Sheikh, man. He wasn't that popular, but his students were popular. He was that type of Sheikh that groomed and,
students,
took students under his arm, under his wing. And but one thing that stands out is his ibadah.
His ibadah, yes.
Yeah, everybody just speaks about his, him being an abid, finishing like 2,000 khatams in his mihrab.
No.
And so myself and Sheikh Nasser has a personal story with him, Sheikh Nasser Bonds.
I saw you posted in the group,
In fact, the ma'ad that we were in, one of his students, and his students have this particular look, man. They're Azari, and they'll wear the Azari cap, but they have a tail on.
Okay.
They'll wear they have it turned like that with a tail. So one of his students, he was the Amid of our ma'ad. And then he had organized a talk with Sheikh Osama. It was pre-Ramadan that he had to come give us some, nasiha. But in Egypt, you need a tasrih, right? You need like permission for any talk. You need like license. I think the license didn't go through. The Sheikh didn't come. And the two of us decided we're going to go and meet up. We're going to meet the Sheikh. We're going to find where the Sheikh is. We found out where his masjid was. There was a little bookstore, and one of the other students had the bookstore. He told us where the masjid was. We went through one night in Ramadan. As we're driving towards the masjid, the Taraweeh is coming out already. So we're thinking if we're going to get there, the Sheikh might be gone, not knowing anything about the Sheikh. So we get there to the masjid, and then the Sheikh is having supper. And then he offered us some supper, and we had some supper.
MashaAllah. And
then we greeted the Sheikh. So the Sheikh said, no, we're gonna make salah now. So we thought, okay, maybe the Sheikh took a break after Isha, and but it was actually Isha that he was praying, and then he prayed the first rak'ah of Isha 5 juz. And the second rak'ah, I think maybe 1.5 juz. And needless to say, I made eye contact with Sheikh Nasser after Isha. We didn't stay around for Taraweeh because they say some nights he recites half a Quran, some nights complete Quran, and that was Sheikh Osama.
SubhanAllah, something amazing, right? I'm going through a book with a student, right? And when you read the biographies and the tarajim of the Salaf, they would be described as kana mufassiran, kana faqihan, kana aliman bil hadith, kana thiqatan. But one thing that stands out is kana abidan, wari'an, salihan. And this is something that as tulabul ilm, as students of knowledge and as scholars, I don't think we give it its due reverence and respect. Yes, there's the academic aspect of the life of the talib al-ilm, a student, knowledge, books, teaching, whatever. But where's the ibadah?
And sometimes you look at it so coldly, man. You look at it like facts, hard facts, and it doesn't penetrate your heart. So that's sometimes you're busy with so many things, like in Ramadan generally.
You neglect your own worship.
You like
You
had 3,
neglect your own
4
worship,
lectures and online stuff, and then you neglect your own worship. But Sheikh, we've been
Sheikh, we have a special guest tonight, inshallah.
The main man in
Khair,
the
inshallah.
cooler there. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How's Moulana doing? We are so fortunate to have the Love Doctor,
MashaAllah,
with us. Sheikh Moulana shares this title with another Moulana.
No, but I think Moulana is from the two, he's the most prominent Love Doctor.
MashaAllah.
When I tell people we're having just that poster that you've put out with Moulana's face alone, and I think that's a good thing that you did just by putting Moulana's face on there. Alhamdulillah, people are telling me, inshallah, I'll be logging on tonight.
Okay, so tonight's topic is, somewhat sensitive, and we've very often people have refrained from sending messages because obviously on Facebook, YouTube, your name and your profile picture will come on. We have a dedicated WhatsApp line this evening and for the future, inshallah. Any questions that the brother or sister has and he wants it to remain anonymous, they can send it to 079 524 3384. 079 524 3384. And don't worry, that's not my private line. It's not my personal line. And inshallah ta'ala, we will maintain the
anonymity.
Dive word, yeah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Moulana, I spoke to you and I said we want to speak a little bit about fasakh and these type of things. Maybe I used the wrong word when I spoke to Moulana. But basically we've been speaking about qabiltu, right? And qabiltu, everybody or most people when they get married for the rest of their lives. That's your intention, at least. But sometimes it goes south. And we have this understanding, Moulana, or this notion that, it's still death to us part. Is that Islamic, or does Islam really offer you a way out if everything else doesn't?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah wahda, wassalatu wassalamu ala man la nabiyya ba'da. Before we jump into the depth or into the deep side, I was at the nikah on Sunday, and one of the guests was Maulana Abdul Rahman Khan, and he's the mufti of the MJC, and he on a very light note said that another alim told him, whispered in his ear, just after the person said qabiltu, he whispered in Maulana Abdul Rahman's ear that few minutes ago he was the bridegroom. He was the groom. Now after his qabiltu, he's the broom. So just to set a nice tone. So till death do us part, not only is it senseless, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah has got all the wisdom that we don't know. Allah knows, and Allah knew at the time of creation and before the time of creation, that Allah knew that things are not going to always work out and things are going to go south. And so in Allah's wisdom, Allah even has a surah Talaaq. That's the first thing. So the notion of till death do us part, it's sometimes humanly impossible. You can't put a cat and a dog together in a cage and expect them to have a tea party every day.
But you thought both were cats, and then
well, yeah,
usually you think both are cats. Yeah.
So I think that is just the reality of life. It happens to the best of people and it happens to the worst of people. But Islam has got an extra dimension to that, and that is the mutual agreement. Islam even caters for that also. But the operative word, أو تسريحهم بإحسان, parting goodness. And we would have been aware of a case that was in the news in this week, and we're obviously not going to allude to it with any specifics, but there's huge amounts of money involved as well. Although the husband is passed on, but there's huge amounts of money, and there was a fatwa that was passed and it was accepted by the court, etc., etc. It turned ugly. Perhaps for the wrong reasons or not, because the husband is passed on. So it wasn't a talaq or a faskhun nikah. What I'm saying is that it's not always that it is bi-ihsan. A lot of the time, probably more of the time,
it's not
than not, it is not bi-ihsan.
Yeah.
In fact, Het is ihsan wat die nonsense maak, you understand?
Yeah, I think nobody comes home happy, and because often Mullah, you hear the brothers says, Sheikh, I was angry. But what type of anger? Because nobody's happy
When they give a talaq.
when they give a talaq. Nobody
Absolutely.
comes home and the food was
Absolutely.
nice and you happy and she's happy.
And
And
then you give it a
Let's
look,
have, yes.
It's not working
cool,
for me.
ek los
Yes.
vir jou.
Yes,
There
yes.
is
I was-
anger. There is.
So I think one of the things that I've observed, at least, there's never you wake up one morning, I'm gonna talaq my wife, or I'm gonna go to whatever hukuma, whatever qudat I'm going to for a fasq. That never happens. It's not a decision that you make like that. It's not a light switch.
Yeah.
There has to be a build up. So I think it's important to understand that talaq or fasq doesn't happen overnight. There's contributing factors, many. Some more shadid or more severe than others, but there's always contributing factors.
Mullah, interesting you mentioned that obviously that person gets to that point not overnight. So now they get to this qada, or this Islamic body, whatever Islamic body it may be, and it's very important that sisters actually go to Islamic bodies
Yes.
instead of fulan, this one
Yes.
and that one,
Yes.
and khalifa this and khalifa that. With all due respect to the khalifas and the muallims and the muallimas, but I mean, it's irresponsible
Absolutely.
for me as an individual to take on such a
Absolutely.
case. I mean, we were speaking about our teachers, and I mean, we had like expert teachers, but when the questions of talaq especially came to them, they would say, no, go to a body, go to a panel, go to the Azhar, go ask there.
Yes.
I'm not going to say yay or nay, then you live in haram. But now Sister A comes to the body, and obviously there's a process. They're not going to give her a paper stamp and go home. And then the sister comes back and says, "Lati vir my gehelp." What's going to happen, Moulana, when the sister, she is at that point, she wants out, and the husband doesn't want to divorce her, and she's going to go to, say, the MJC? Or is it going to be overnight freight of your fasakh certificate?
So-
That's what people expect.
Yes. So I want to say that I don't work in that department, so I'm not a spokesperson for the record. I'm not a spokesperson, but I'm aware of how the process works. You come, you make an appointment, you go via a counselor. Now, this is the first thing, and if we may focus on that process, people expect that when they walk in, I want a fasq, then they want to see they want to go to Sharia court straight away. It's a process. So there's an intake process. The council will record the motivations. What are your motivations? What are your justified reasons or justifiable reasons? And then if the lady doesn't, she's offered, are you willing to give it another chance for some counseling? That is the first thing that is placed on offer. And quite rightly so. I don't think that we should go into, or rather regard the whole process as I go into a fasq factory or a talaq factory. And that is the impression many people might get, not only with our mainstream bodies, but even with other minor, smaller organizations as well. It's like a fasq factory. You come in married and you walk out unmarried. So the process is started, and already some people at that point become frustrated.
And they say, let me help you.
Now, yes. So what they understand by help is ek moet 'n fasq kry. I must get a fasq. What the process means by help is that we're still going to try to mend and not end. In fact, that's a philosophy that I have been living by. I try to mend and not end. Be that as it may. So now the process goes, the case is studied, gets referred to the Sharia court. In the Sharia court, and it's very important, you'll never find one person alone sitting. There will always be 2+.
Well, how do you take that responsibility as an individual, man? And
So-
sometimes you find individuals taking that on themselves,
So look, purely from a Shari perspective, if the A's and the B's are in place, then the C's or the outcomes are dictated by the books. So you don't have to feel any amount of guilt. And that's important sitting there, because you are changing the life of someone.
Yeah.
You are determining the future of children. You are rendering a wife husbandless, and therefore, in most of the instances,
Without an
incomeless. And in the end, she sits with the children. These are all the life-changing decisions you are part of. But then one comes to understand you're not part of the decision. You're merely facilitating a process which is prescribed to you in the books.
Mm.
So it's a very academic thing.
Mm.
It's a very it shouldn't become an emotional experience for
divorce
the
yourself. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
That
you have to.
situation.
You have to.
absolute yes.
You have to.
And I think divorcing yourself. I mean,
no pun intended.
no pun intended. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the process is pretty much if A is in place and B is in place and C is the result. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Isn't that Pythagoras or what?
Allah
No.
A'lam.
Allah.
I'm
Not
not
the best-
no,
not
not
the
the
best.
best
Okay.
mathematician.
Maybe some of the viewers can see that.
Arithmetic,
Pythagoras. Be that as it may. So if the A's and the B's add up and C is the result, Fabiha wa ni'mat. The person facilitating the process shouldn't feel guilty. However, we are human beings.
Mm.
And often that, unfortunately, that dimension has to be there, the emotional part of it. So then the lady comes, but even before Sharia court, the husband is informed. Your wife has applied for a fasakh. At least thrice is informed.
How many times do they actually pitch Moulana?
A lot of the
Out,
time.
out of the.
Okay, so I don't sit in the Sharia court regularly, but the numerous times that I have been sitting in, all the cases, alhamdulillah, the husbands have
for
pitched.
present.
Okay.
But then it becomes, he hasn't pitched for counseling, he hasn't pitched for anything else, but he pitches for Sharia court. And often husbands come there to come and defend themselves and make themselves, I'm not guilty. At that point, it doesn't almost matter anymore.
Mm.
Because Sharia court is now the point where you don't get to defend yourself. You had all of those chances.
Yeah.
So it might be a very hard line to take. But at the same time, how are people going to learn? It is an educational process anyway. So now husband pitches up and he tries to discredit wife. And he tries to give his side of the story. Sharia court is not for that. The counseling process is for that. Okay.
We're dealing now with black and white. The
Yes.
Sharia court is dealing with
We are here now.
halal and haram.
Yes. So now what happens is, if Sharia court sees it fit, they will refer the couple for hakama min ahli wa hakama min ahliha, or refer them back for counseling one last time, or try to see husband separately and wife separately, the same facility, perhaps even, or shoot two separate counselors. And then the two counselors, which in 99% of the cases will be ulama, after Sharia court has referred them, then they would get together and say, look, man, this husband seems unwavering, or this wife seems unwavering. They've made up their minds. But often it boils down to having to make a call. And that call is, are we going to place cat and dog in the same cage? And that to me is the dilemma.
I think there's a big confusion or misunderstanding, Moulana, when couples choose to either stay. I mean, it's loveless now already. They can't stand each other, but there's kids. And often we are told, a house without a father, die kinders gaan stout word. They, the mother and the father stay together, but they're at each other's throat.
Miserable.
Cat and on.
Yeah, it's miserable.
Every day. And they say they do it for the children. Do you think that's damaging for the children?
It's very noble, I must say. Very noble.
It's noble, but
very insincere. We would rather have a fasakh, although the talaq, husbands must understand the talaq is the better option.
Yeah,
fasakh is like final.
Yeah.
Fasakh, after a fasakh nikah, she has the right to say yay or nay, I want you back or I don't want you back. Whereas with talaq, at least the first two, he's got that window. So husbands mustn't be unwise. But so it's noble, but it's insincere. Will that couple be the only statistic? No. Will those children be the only statistic? No. So now this might be heartless. It might seem heartless. How can you say? It doesn't necessarily mean that the children are going to end up on the streets. It doesn't necessarily mean that because now post divorce counseling or post talaq or fasakh counseling needs to happen. And alhamdulillah, in fact, I think this coming week, the MGC has initiated a support group for divorced women. And someone asked me, what about support group for second wives? I said, you don't need a support group for second wives. You need an education group for second wives, because we need to educate our wives, but also our husbands, the way they do it. Different discussion. So now, one looks at this and, do I advise talaq? or do I advise against it? So what does Allah advise?
Mm.
Allah allows it. The permissibility granted to us is in itself an advice. Quran is advice. So if Allah is, and we, I think, forcing people together. So in the olden days, and I think this is where the counseling scene has changed quite, tremendously. In the olden days, the Imam would tell and I'm saying it with respect to all our
seniors.
predecessors, but they would advise, nee, Allah sê julle moet sabr. The wife gets beaten 23 years. Moet jy nog altyd sabr? You know what I'm saying? Die mense het al gedink sy het 'n paar vet wange, maar as jy 'n wange wat so vet is, is vet geslat. You know? So when where do you draw the line? So I'm saying the first time and the first day that there's a violation, tick it on a list. What we need to understand that the act of nikah, it's a contract. It's the same as me going to a job of work and signing up that I will do X, Y, and Z for so much. The same in the I will fulfill X, but these.
But when your requirements are not met, you can resign.
Absolutely.
If they decide they're not going to pay you anymore, Moulana,
absolutely.
at all, and you pass that,
Yeah. So that is why we must understand that Islam is the ultimate freedom.
Definitely.
And Allah has made it such that Allah's even freed the man of alimony.
Yeah.
In the West, a man will pay alimony. The wife can get married to 10 millionaires or billionaires. And she will still get alimony from the first husband. And Allah's prevented that because it's so unfair.
Yes.
So Islam is given that kind of freedom even. But at the same time, and this is a dilemma, and I want to maybe just mention it now whilst we're talking about money. It is sad, nay, it is disgusting that the wife often pulls, the ex-wife often pulls on the shortest end of the stick. He takes the fridge, the stove, the washing machine, the microwave, the teaspoons. I've had cases. He takes the teaspoons. He takes the bed, everything. Yeah. And then one particular recent case that I was not part of, but I'm aware of, he kicked the wife, so to speak, in a very diplomatic, nice way. He kicked her out of the house. The house is fully furnished. She's living in a one-bedroom space with her with her daughters, with his children, with his children, in fact. And now it has had such effect on the family. The daughter's still one daughter's in high school, and she is experiencing anxiety attacks because her father has now done what he's done. Now, the fact of the matter is that, and this is important, so fine, he doesn't have to nafaqah anymore. He's not responsible for her. He is responsible for his children. His daughters until they get married, his sons until they're self-sufficient. But what about that wife? Where does she go back to? So that is where we as men have to play our role. If my sister is talaqed, it's my responsibility whether I like it or not. If my daughter is talaqed, it's my responsibility whether I like it or not. There has to be a fallback. And this is the beauty of Islam. That doesn't only apply to marriage. It applies after marriage as well. Before marriage, during and after. Because before marriage, who's responsible for
the baton just gets handed over. It's a different person in charge.
All the
responsible.
Time. Yes.
Responsible.
Yes. And so after talaq or after faskhul nikah, that lady is the responsibility of the family. But sadly, she has to fend for herself.
Yeah.
Reality is also there. The father's passed on. The brothers have lives of their own. So she has to fend for herself. But often, and this is what I say, also as mans, man. We are men. We can sleep in the back of a car. We can sleep behind the garage wall. On a veltje somewhere. Make your children comfortable. So that is the sad reality that we are currently sitting with. We don't encourage it, of course. Faskhul nikah and talaq. We cannot encourage it. But at the same time, the reality of it is, Islam has never been la karaha fi din. It applies in every sphere. Even till that point. There's no force. You can't force. So in the olden days, the woman or the wife was forced
to remain in the marriage.
Yeah. And detrimentally so.
Yeah. And they resent each other and
absolutely.
And it affects the kids at the end of the day.
Probably worse also even.
Yeah, no matter how much we say we'll never mimic what our parents do, but we see it in our daily, interactions that because there's no other blueprint.
Replica,
you do what you know. You basically do what you know.
It becomes, it becomes normal. If I may just mention this one particular case, the husband comes to me and he says he has a very, very unusual problem. I should speak about it. He says that every night when he comes from work, his wife insists that he smacks her or hits her.
I understand.
And this was indeed very strange. And he says she would carry on, scratch him, hit him, pull his hair, do everything just for him to give her one smack. And immediately after that, she is loving towards him, cooks his food, dishes his food, serves his food, everything else. You know what I mean?
So she just wanted to be,
You know, and then we started speaking to the lady. Turns out the lady was physically abused by her father, physically.
Yes, sir.
Everything that went wrong, she got a hiding. Everything. She grew used to getting a hiding because she interpreted that from a young age as a form of love.
Yes, sir.
And this is sadly so. Our children interpret what they see in their parents as normal. It has to be like this. Disrespecting the wife, it's normal. It has to be like that. Or vice versa. Hitting each other, it's normal. I had heard a disturbing voice note the other night where this girl was calling frantically. She was calling, someone please call the police. My father's going to kill my mother. And the girl was about 13. So I'm asking, how many years did she grow up like that? So the dissolution of marriages, and I think that is probably the dissolution is not taboo, nor is it sinful. People say yes, but Allah becomes angry. We know of the hadith. It's a halal thing, but it angers Allah. We're not going to go into the depths of the hadith itself. People use that hadith and say, yeah, but Allah would quat. Allah that becomes unhappy when people talaq or separate. It may or may not be so. That is not the discussion point. That is what people use and husbands use sometimes to keep their wives in the marriage. I'm asking this. Is Allah less happier with you for remaining in the marriage and fighting? Or is he less happier when you leave the marriage and then become happy people and live like brother and sister? Which one makes Allah more happy? Don't talk about the anger of Allah. Which one makes Allah more happy? Is Allah going to be happy that you fight every day? So you want to use that when it comes to the breakup, but what happens inside the marriage? And that is very important.
At all costs, they're just going to hang on to whatever is left of.
And that is thin ice.
What was called a marriage.
Yeah, on the piece of paper still.
Yeah.
And by the Imam, ek het vir julle getrou. It's then you start walking on thin ice. I'm saying this, if you don't eat enough at home, you leave the home, you're going to buy you something on the road. That's something that you're going to buy you on the road. It's fried in oil, it's fatty, and it's junk food. Similarly, if you're fed up in your marriage, you don't want the attention of that person. You don't want to give attention to that person. You don't want to be around that person. You're going to look for every excuse to get out of the home. And you're going to look for probably 1,000 reasons to justify why you're involved with someone else. And it becomes, unfortunately, it's more than just hello, hi, how are you? It doesn't remain there. Because now one thing leads to the other. So an unhappy partner is a potential sinner outside the marriage. I think that speaks for itself. If we are deprived in one circle, we will try to fill that deprivation somewhere else. Now we end up with a society of illicit relationships, illegitimate children. And therefore, I think, again, probably justifies, if it comes to that point, that lady will not be the first one, nor the last. Those children will not be the first, nor the last. And I think it's going to be essential. There needs to be an education process post-separation or post-dissolution, especially with the children. So the sad part is, and I'm sorry to have to say this, but I'm going to say it, most of the time it's women who use the children against the husband. I believe that we must make our children understand that is your father, irrespective. So a string and a series of things follow afterwards. economic challenges. The children all of a sudden have to now have a different standard. Their standard gets lowered. Again, we as men don't fulfill our responsibilities. So the dissolution, we can go into the technicalities of how a marriage can be dissolved, through which means, and all of those things. Perhaps this is not the program for that. We should go sit in a marriage class for that. But we have to look at the social ill that talaq or fasq becomes a springboard for, on the one hand, and on the other hand, if that becomes a springboard for many other ills, at the same time forcing people together also becomes a springboard for other ills.
Yeah.
So it's catch-22 on the one hand, but on the other hand, I believe do what is in the best interest of the islah of both. You cannot become pious if you hit your wife.
Yeah, definitely.
You cannot be pious. You cannot jika mau pious. And I mean, we've seen musallis in masajid. We've seen people who are there 5 waqts.
And I think gender-based violence and stuff like that, Sheikh, is played down.
Absolutely.
I've heard a Sheikh saying to me, he said, my grandfather had 2 wives. And if they were, as hulle uitgekat, he takes them in the room.
So it's
And he was like saying it like, I'm like, how's that
like
normal?
it's normal.
How's that normal?
Yeah.
You know, and
But Maaf to interject, Moulana, if we've had the Minister of Police saying, or that 7 ladies that were raped near those mines, if we had the Minister of Police saying that she was lucky she was raped by only one person, this is how gender-based violence is taken. It's okay. I mean, a woman has to feel lucky that she was only raped by one person. So yes, indeed, it has been downplayed. I agree, and I think, but times have changed. Women have become more educated, but they've also become more, I'm going to say, informed. They only took what my father said. My father said that the Imam said. My father said that the Imam said, and that was the be all and the end all, as the Imam gesê het. Now women have changed.
The classes are full of women.
Absolutely. And I think our younger sisters, alhamdulillah, one is happy to actually see how our younger sisters are developing, educating themselves. So because of that education process that women have generally undertaken, they've become more informed and therefore more aware of their rights. Some women...
We just have a comment I want to read. Somebody's actually thanking you. I'm so glad that Moulana highlighted that someone has to nafaqah the divorced woman. Usually the neglect is from the female's brother. The brother must be educated as well as his wife of his his wife of his responsibility towards his divorced or widowed sister.
Yes, it's essential. We understand circumstances. We understand that the brother in this instance, but there's other instances where there's the father, other instances where there's a son. The male figure, basically.
At least telephone upon. I think that's the least you can do.
Yes, and I think it's more about that. She will go cut people's grass to survive. Women have that in them. I'm saying that they are much more brave than us. A woman will give birth. She will go from life and make a U-turn at death so far away. The baby will be placed on her chest. The navel will be cut. Baby will be clean. She'll breastfeed the baby. The people will come visit her the evening for visiting time. And people will tell her, you've been through a hell of an experience. Eh? I'm sure you don't want any more now. She will say, if Allah wants me to have more, I will have more children. Women are brave. I'm going to give you another example of how brave they are. Recently, our feeding scheme equipment at our masjid was stolen. And people told me, now prior to that, some time ago, the mosque was burgled. And people told me, go to the gang leader in the area. I refused. I'm not going to give power to the gang leader. So I let it go. Myself and the committee jointly decided, no, we're not going to negotiate with gang leaders because we're giving them power. Those ladies of the feeding scheme, they went to the gang. They actually got back our pots, our stoves, and some of our most of our equipment, or all, in 15 minutes time. This is how brave women are. The man, we see it, our Palestinian sisters, man standing with such a long machine gun. So women are brave by nature. They are survivors by nature. They will do something to put something on the table tonight. But I think Moulana has mentioned, or Sheikh has mentioned emotional support.
Yeah, because sometimes Maulana, we're looking at that woman and she's doing what she must to put food on the table. And maybe in that process, she's driving a nice car and they're living in a nice house, but she's just like meeting the bare minimum.
Emotionally.
But no, even financially, man, she has to put the kids, like Maulana spoke about, standards dropping. But she doesn't want, a mother must don't want the child to feel any
Of her pains.
any of her pain. So she tries to keep it at the same standard.
Yes.
And she is giving and giving and giving, but nobody is phoning. Are you okay? Do you have a bread in the house? Do you have electricity?
Yes.
Money? Do you have petrol money?
Yes.
Because yeah, she has that fancy car because maybe it's even a company car. But are we asking about our sisters?
Yes. I think that stems from our love to judge. We have a passion to judge. And we see we look at what the person is driving and then we judge him by that. What he's wearing, we judge him by that. Even his appearance, we judge him by that. So I think that stems from there as well. But it also stems, it's also a defense mechanism to shift the focus away from us. Because if we're going to say, nee, masal leka no rai se reran so kwai kar, then it's going to really mean that, so because of that, of what she's driving, she's okay, you can see she's okay.
I don't need to step up,
Yes, we will never know the struggles of others. Wallahi, we'll never know what struggles every individual goes through.
Maulana, I have another question.
Go for it, inshallah.
Is every case that was ever brought to you, in my experience, short experience as an imam, I don't feel like every case that's brought to me is actually a case for an imam.
Indeed so. Indeed, I agree with you. Sometimes, so I think that is the gist of counseling. You let them find the solutions. You just help them find it in a better way. At home, they're going to fight, scream, swear each other. So they get out of the environment. So you just facilitate them seeking the answers. Perhaps
Like a paramedic.
Essentially, yes. You basically just facilitate the process where they find the answers. That's the first aspect of it. So sometimes it wasn't necessary. But at the same time, even if I do discover that you could have so resolved this, you're taking my time, these worst cases, I need to also understand that a line is made up of dots. And little dots make up that line. And we don't see the line as little dots. We see it as a complete line. So those little things, which we may regard as little in our hearts, but it's going to add up eventually. So it might add up to something bigger. So it might be, yes, I will never tell a couple that, by the way. You're coming to me with this nonsense. I will never do that. I will rather just entertain them and tell them this is not the worst we've seen.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah, you know. I think also we have to incorporate other things which in the past our predecessors might not have incorporated. One of the things that I've incorporated is dating in the marriage. I tell them, go on a date, man. Go away for a weekend alone. It helps. Wallahi, it helps. But coming back to so when the couple finally sitting in the Sharia court now, the Qadi or the Qudat are there, more than one. They're listening to the case. They feel it is justified. Now they say, look, based on the evidence that was presented to us, there is grounds. Many of us might wonder, what are grounds? What grounds are they talking about? So I think that's important that we perhaps use this opportunity to expound a little bit on the grounds. And unfortunately, as our Sharia is ever evolving, we don't have a Sharia that stays white is white and black is black all the time. We have an evolving Sharia. So too reasons and have also evolved, not become different. But one of the most things that I'm scared of in life is bees. They will sting you from a side you will never expect it. So too, problems will present itself from a side you've never expected.
We'll sort that bee out, Maulana.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a bee. Be that as it may. So often people say, but what is and apart
what
from
is grounds, Maulana? My question is every sister that comes for a fasakh granted the fasakh?
No. Without winking an eye. Sometimes it's flimsy grounds. I don't love him anymore. I can't take his manners. There's no grounds for a fuss. Help him to change.
Yeah.
Can he take your manners? Can he take your ways? Always the question.
Yeah.
But pure Shari'i reasons, violation of any form, physical abuse, it's a violation of her safety. Emotional abuse, it's a violation of her emotional safety. What's the verse?
Financial, emotional.
So emotional, we would say
That's difficult to prove.
That's the only thing.
Difficult to prove.
Emotional. Some women say they are mentally abused by the husband. How do you quantify that?
Yes. So others would even want you to go to a professional. We want an assessment from a professional. So I'm saying that Google, just Google it, you find out what is mental abuse. If a person repeats, so I try to always simplify things. If you take a bushman from the Kalahari now and you give him sugar, he's probably not going to like it immediately. Or if you give him cooked meat, he's probably not going to eat it immediately or like it immediately, because that is what he's accustomed to. So by the husband, for example, telling the wife over a 20-year period, you're a stupid, you're a stupid. She can start believing that she's stupid. It's been proven anyway. This is the kind of thing. So instead of saying, I think you are stupid, what do you think? Are you stupid? She might just tell him, yes, I agree with you, I'm stupid, because she believes she's stupid. This is a form of mental abuse. These other forms of economic, holding the wife to economic ransom.
Yeah.
You know, if I leave you, you're not going to have income. You know, you're not going to be. Now I haven't dealt with so many affluent couples. I've certainly dealt with some. And the few that I've dealt with, in 99% of the cases, the wife is scared of losing the smart car and the fur coat and the jewelry. And she stays in the marriage for that. And then I would always ask her, do you value your happiness over that, or do you value that over your happiness? You be the judge. It is a sad state of affairs, actually, that the person who sacrifices his or her happiness. To some,
that is the happiness. Maybe they have that illusion that
pursue the happiness. It's like making themselves believe.
Facade, yeah.
Yes. And I think it's pretty much the case of the baby crying, and then the mommy just gives the baby breast. She believes that the child needs breast. It's not necessarily always the child might have toothache.
Now they give them a YouTube.
Now they give them a tab. Yeah. So this is pretty much what plays itself out in many marriages, especially in affluent couples. So now we have violation. But this and the basic Sharia is stuff like nafaqah. I'm always of the opinion, and this is one of the questions I ask pre-nikah, premarital questions. Are you able to nafaqah your wife sufficiently? And I would ask her, are you aware that he earns not very much? This is more or less what he earns. Do you know how much he earns? I actually ask. Because I think couples probably share things before marriage already. It's a reality we have to face. Not the ideal situation that they must be in contact and that they must chat and all of this. Not ideal.
But it's a reality.
It's a reality. So you would share, and usually I declare that if you know that about him, then there's not much else that you would have
not declared.
Yes. So now I ask her, are you willing to work with him to make that amount that he can give you every month sufficient? She says yes. Why you want to complain 5 years down the line? He doesn't nafaka me. You knew what you were setting yourself up for. If your husband, if the husband that you're going to marry works on the in the building industry, for example, you know that wintertime the money is going to be scarce because the work is scarce. So brace yourself before the time. Be that as it may. So nafaka in itself is very, very tricky. Does he not nafaka you because he refuses or he can't? Because if he can't, now there are scholars who believe if he can't, then you still have a reason for a or justification, because whether it's his fault or not his fault,
he's not nafaqaing.
He's not nafaqaing, bottom line.
But Maaf, can I?
No, please do.
How big a factor is social media in nafaqah complaints. Because I think a sister's only, okay, you get the real nafaqah problems, but then you get the sister that compares, compares to what her sister or sister-in-law gets, or what she sees on social media, where, you know, school friends travel, and now the basics is not enough anymore, and now all of a sudden it becomes a nafaqah issue.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. We've seen it. We've seen
comparisons, basically.
Yes. We've seen, I've had my fair share of those where she complains that he hasn't, and she cries. Crocodile tears.
Yeah.
He hasn't taken me for a holiday in 2 years.
Ya Allah.
And all my cousins have gone away.
SubhanAllah.
And I'm asking, like, are you for real? But I'm not asking her. I mean,
Upstairs, yeah.
so how do you turn that around? You turn that around by asking a simple question. Has he seen to your basic needs? The holiday is not a basic need. It's a luxury for many. In our day and age, with petrol, 1,000 and a teaspoon, it's a luxury.
We have a few comments / questions. Brother Abu Bakr Alexander writes, Assalamu alaikum, beloved ulama. A question: if a man works, pays bond, covers everything, when all is done, nothing's left, must the man still pay nafaqah? I think the question to the brother is what does it mean? He pays everything. That would
I think it's pertaining to his understanding
as
of
a stipend, cash in the hand.
Yeah, cash in the hand.
Yes. So I don't know if Moulana wants to respond.
No, bismillah, inshallah.
So the response would be that nafaqah in itself is not cash in hand. Nafaqah is seen to the needs. But I think there's a misunderstanding of women more so than men.
I think call it a stipend. They call it nafaqah.
Yeah.
Hey, nafaqah man, my SMS must also go off when he gets his SMS. He gets the bulk SMS, I will get the small SMS.
Yes. So I think once the needs have been fulfilled, the wife or husband for that matter must not be under the impression that because she doesn't have money in her purse or the card in her purse or a bank balance that he didn't nafaqah here. Once the bond has been paid, she needs to understand, or the brother for that matter needs to understand that paying the bond, and unfortunately we are all in that same boat where we have to bond our homes. If the bond is paid, it means he has fulfilled a right of hers. He has seen to it that she's accommodated, and accommodation is one of the forms of nafaqah. If the fridge is full and the kitchen cupboards are full, and there's bread, then it means he has fulfilled a Shari'i obligation. If she's got her clothing, and whether it's bought on an account or not, the fact of the matter is he has fulfilled the basic 3 rights: clothing, food and accommodation. But there's additional things like medical needs. Some ulama differ on that. But I think in our day and age, and especially in our context, it can be understood that that is also a right that he has to fulfill towards his wife. Because she's pregnant of who? Not of the neighbor's cat. She's pregnant. He was part of that. So he has to take the responsibility.
Yes.
So what we are saying is that nafaqah, once the rights are fulfilled, but also what we need to understand, perhaps a little extra, again, contextually speaking.
Yeah.
We have to keep it in context. A lady, toiletries, for example, a man mustn't believe he can buy toiletries for a woman. She can buy her own because she knows what she wants, what fragrance she likes, what style she likes.
I've learned that the hard way, Moulana. Buying things that I think she would like, and she has her own
taste.
Especially when it comes to toiletries and perhaps underwear. He likes pink, she likes red.
I didn't know. I got married, right? So, I was away, studying away, and I had like a bath soap and a toothbrush. I don't know, shower gel and a loofah. I had a face cloth and cookies. Well, I have another question here. Assalamu alaikum. Can divorce be enforced by the Imam or jurist? Can it become their duty to do so? Like if a husband should not fulfill obligations in marriage or non-maintenance or over other serious matters between him and his wife, like can the Imam dissolve the marriage by enforcing divorce?
So the divorce itself, a fasakh, is where the marriage is annulled. Fasakh basically means to annul a contract or to unbind a contract. So in marriage, in the case of marriage, it is unbinding or annulment of the contract. Essentially, that is what fasakh is. It's where the husband's discretion is overridden by the qadi
So basically, he's refusing
to set her free.
to set her free. Yeah.
Yes. No, in that instance, and especially in an Islamic country, it's just a matter of going to the courts. Here, it's a matter of a process, going through the ulama. But, again, I would like to just echo that same point we made in the beginning, Sheikh. It has to be, Moulana, a panel, a body.
To ensure objectivity.
Absolutely, number one. And unfortunately, we've had those fly-by-nights.
We don't want the imam to get married to the lady.
Sadly,
give the fasq and then get married.
Yeah.
No.
Sadly, or being accused in the paper that he gave my wife a fasq because he was making eyes for her.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want that kind of
Yeah, we
situation.
don't.
That
And
is why it's best.
I think this is especially important for young graduates, right? Sometimes you think, I know all the black and white, and you put in this position to like make a call. This is not your call to make.
Absolutely not. I think, and therefore, it is preferable that life experience plays a major role
Definitely.
in changing how couples view each other and in mending. Wallahi, life experience. Sometimes a one little incident can change a couple. It can change the mindset of the couple. And so this is very important. Whilst we are not saying that we should sideline the younger ulama, but preferably you would want to have the wisdom of an older person as well.
Yeah, like Mullah Shafiq said the last time, he's young. Ne? That lady came and they went to see him, and then the wife said, he's so young.
Yes,
I mean, I think, yeah, and sometimes also you see people, perhaps a couple phones you, and then when they step in there, you actually know the wife or the husband from somewhere.
That's difficult.
That's very difficult.
That's difficult, yeah.
It's very difficult to be objective when you...
Yes. I've had my fair share of those. What I usually do, in some instances, I refer to another alim, or I make it clear that you are by no means a favorite of mine in terms of the relationship that I know you. Friends, daughters we've had, but my father didn't know that I'm coming here and all of those things. But just to conclude that earlier point about the divorce being enforced. So it's not the husband being forced, it is Sharia being enforced. And there's a difference.
He's not seeing a reason. Basically, he's not seeing a reason.
Yes.
En ons het nou mooi gepraat.
Yes.
Los maar die vrou. But now the Sharia takes over.
Yes. It's similar, like the father has no reason to bar his daughter from getting married to a certain person. Then his wilaya or wilaya can be overridden. And I think it's a similar instance here, where the husband doesn't see eye to eye or doesn't see reason or refuses to see reason. I've had one person, the lady had all the grounds basically for a fasq, and we asked him, issue a talaq. He says, no, Allah will be angry with me.
Yeah.
Blatantly refuses. And I mean, you deal with people like that. Ja, ik kan maar die haram aanvangen. Allah gaat niet kwaad wezen. Net als hij vroeg aan talaq, gaat Allah kwaad raak voor hem.
Maulana, there's another issue, and it comes up all the time. And Maulana Ashik, you've been quite quiet, so you and Maulana can answer.
Khair, inshallah.
The issue of 3 talaqs, right? People say, he didn't want to give me 3. This is a question I got like for the past few months. Sheikh, he doesn't want to give me 3. I asked sister, why do you want 3?
Absolutely.
Why do you want 3?
Yes.
One is as good as, but then they don't know what you're trying to tell them when you tell them one is as good as 3. Well, I was part of a process where the family called me in. They now, the husband is going to divorce the wife. He says he wants to give 3. I tell him, brother, don't give 3. You're going to regret
Unwise.
it. You're going to regret it. No, the father, 3. The man, 3. Die vrou, geef my al 3. Wallahi, Sheikh, he did the 3. 2 days later, he phones me. He said, nothing we can do. He said, no loop. I said, brother, say te gewoon.
Yes.
Say te geluister. Why the 3? What is 3, Sheikh? What is in 3?
So generally, when we speak about 3 talaqs, we are referring to 3 talaqs in one given sitting. That's number 1. So I talaq you, or I talaq you 3 times.
Is that?
And generally, this is frowned upon by the Sharia. The Deen does not want this.
But it falls.
It falls, according to the majority of the scholars.
Yes.
And the Deen does not want this because the Deen knows that people will, and Allah Ta'ala knows that people will regret. And we know the MJC, the approach and the fatwa, which Maulana wants to expound on that fatwa.
Preferably not.
Now 3 is 1. The MJC fatwa.
Yeah, look, there is a difference of opinion among scholars.
Okay.
As a case to case, I think it's probably a case to case.
I thought it's a general fatwa that they give.
No, there has been a change. And I want to for the record say that I am not with the fatwa
Representing
department. No, am I speaking on behalf of the MGC? But of discussions that I've had is that if the husband gives 3, and if he's intended 3, but he gives 1, so those are some of the elements.
Okay.
So and one of the basic things, if I want to give 1, I can't say I give you 3, or I give you 1, but I say it 3 times. If you wanted to give 1, then why didn't you say 1? It's the most logic thing in the world. But I think, look, it's a very debated topic. I think our ulama from my background, the Deobandi background, come with a different angle. We've got the madhaib, some of the scholars of the various madhaib. Moulana has also now mentioned, 3 is 3 and 1 is 1. There's really been a never-ending, conclusive outcome to that particular discussion. I don't regard.
So I think the best advice we can give to the brothers is keep that in the holster.
And number 2, it's haram.
Give 1.
It's haram. When this was reported to the Prophet,
there was one.
What did he say? He says, "Ayul'ab bi kitabillah wa ana bayna adhurikum."
Yes.
Or people playing with Allah's law whilst I'm alive. The Prophet became extremely angry. It's not a small matter, it's a matter of haram. And you will regret it.
Definitely.
Allah has
I
great
haven't
wisdom.
seen anybody doing that doesn't regret it.
Ek het vir 100 talaq gegee. Môre is hy weer terug. Hy wil vir terug gee. And then they want the loopholes.
Yes.
They want the loopholes. A couple, this brother didn't divorce his wife like in one go 3 times across, different spans of time.
And that's another question that I wanted to ask you. People have this confusion, man. Like the reset button you get on a computer or on a game. So they have 1, right? And then they make up, then they think
the one disappears.
The one disappears basically.
And they get 1 back. They get it back, what we see, the brother divorced his wife in 1995, 2005, in 2015, right?
So there's 3 is finished.
3 is finished. That all scholars agree. You can't go back because you gave it at different times. Now they say, no, Imam, but you know what? Hy was kwaad gewees. And they say like he was. And then the couple actually brought to me a fatwa of, what's the name? What's this famous site, Saudi site? Islam Q&A. Brought me. I said, look here, that anger part, we need to look at it because the Prophet said, La talaq fi ighlaq. There is no talaq. When you're locked up. That's basically a level of insanity.
It's temporary insanity. You don't know what you're saying.
Insanity, But generally speaking, the way that we have experienced how people talaq in anger, that's valid according to all Sunni madhahib. Right? And now people are looking for justification because they've done the haram. Another issue is the talaq in haid whilst menstruating.
Talaq bid'i.
And there's such a beautiful wisdom, right? My teacher explained this to us. He said, like, look here, man. You see, when you have not been intimate with your spouse maybe for 7 days,
anything can take you off.
Anything can take you off. And the Sharia tells us, don't divorce her.
Yes.
Don't divorce her, number 1, when she's in haid, when she's menstruating. And don't divorce her after you are intimate with her. So he gives an example. He says, you want to divorce her, but you can't because it's haram, because it's in haid. Although we consider it valid if it does happen. You can't divorce her. Now, the haid period is over. Now you can't divorce her. Perhaps you were intimate with her. Now you can't you wait till, sorry, I'm confusing the mas'ala now. So you cannot divorce her. She's in haid. You wait till that period is over. When that clean period kicks in, if you want to divorce her, you can divorce her now on condition that you do not sleep with her. If you do not sleep with her. And that clean period then lapses and then the new haid period comes. You see, the Sharia gives us such extensions because there might be something that changes your mind, man. And that's why the Sharia says haram to divorce the wife in the state of haid, because as you say, anything can tick the guy off, and haram to divorce her after you were intimate with her in a clean period. So if you were intimate with her in a clean period, can you divorce her? No. You have to wait till she's in a haid. Now she's in a haid. Can you divorce her? No.
So it's all the time giving you time to reflect, basically.
Yes, exactly. And if people should follow due process like that, I think the divorce rate will be, I won't say it will be lower, but I mean, there will be much consideration in that talaq. Like my teacher says, maybe een aan sien sy enkel. And then all of those ideas of talaq goes out of your mind. You get what I'm saying? Yes. So that's something important. People do not know that it is haram to divorce your wife in a state of haid.
And even the idda, Sheikh, the vrou moet nooit jy sê.
Yeah.
You're talking about seeing the ankle and rekindling romance.
Example, agter die eerste talaq word sy uitgegooi.
No, of die pa ko hala.
Yes.
Whereas the deen wants them to be together
spend
in the marital home
yes, in the
because
marriage,
something might
yes.
happen that brings them together in
Yes,
marriage.
Yes.
Sheikh, so that's another question. What role, Moulana, does the wali, wakil, play in a talaq?
So in the talaq itself, so he has the role of wakil. He cannot influence the process. He cannot force the husband.
Talaq my dochter.
Talaq my dochter nie.
And that happens quite
If he wants the marriage to end, so this is also what happens. The father wants it to end, the mother wants it to end because they're sitting on the outside. The daughter doesn't want to, but because she's scared, again the deen is being used. Because ridallahu fi ridal walidain. That the satisfaction of Allah lies in the satisfaction of the parents. So the daughter doesn't want to dissatisfy her parents, so she goes with them, but her heart is here. And then often what happens, she runs away from the parents' home. And then the parents come to the Imam, and I've had this. Said, oh, she ran away from us. It's your own fault.
She went to her husband.
She went to her husband. She ran away from home. She went back to her marriage. So there's no influence that the wakil and the wali should have and can have. And they shouldn't. In as much as, and this is a very important, I want to say, let's make it a life philosophy. In as much as the business between the parents is not the children's business, parents must also learn that business between married children is not our business. She got married, he got married, they have to fight their own battles. We had our battles anyway. We made it through, alhamdulillah. If they don't make it, fabiya wa ni'mah, they will not be the first and they won't be the last. But I don't think parents should influence a decision. Certain times, yes, if there's clear abuse, obviously. If the safety of the child is compromised, absolutely. If the rights are violated, absolutely. In those instances, you will actually encourage the wakil. You go fetch your daughter and take her to the ulama and say that you would like to have this marriage annulled. In certain instances, yes. If the husband swore the mother, come on, man. She probably swore his mother first. You understand? So people on little things, parents even, they look for excuses. So I think that's an essential part. Shaykh Moulana, just coming back to the talaq part, I think for these exact discussions, it is best that if you want to talaq your wife, go to the sheikh, go to the imam, or go to your mainstream ulama bodies and sit, let them educate you first. Often talaq is issued willy-nilly, unfortunately. And then this whole thing, do we need witnesses or not? All of those things. And I'm saying again, this particular segment or this program is a bit too short to go into the depths of those things. It's essential that a couple goes to marriage classes. I just want to come back as far as often the husband says that he gave a talaq under duress.
That's often happened already, Mona. Now they look for all the excuses. The latest one, I didn't say it in Arabic.
Yes. What?
Yeah.
Really? Allah, that's a first to me.
Pull up all those questions that you had. You had a few questions.
I had a few.
I have it on my phone, inshallah. Let's quickly go through it. I'm assuming.
Quite a few.
Yeah,
it has to be in Arabic now.
It has to be in Arabic. And then there's the one.
That's a new
that's
one.
a new
It wasn't
one.
with an imam. It wasn't in front of an imam.
Okay.
No, the witnesses is an old thing. The Imam says, I see a valid talaq.
Because I was a witness.
Yes. You send it to me. Oh, here's it, yeah. The first one is, Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. Can a mu'allima please advise, in this case a Moulana, if your husband in a state of anger tells you, get out of the house, leave the house and go find another husband, is that considered talaq?
That goes back to the husband.
So that goes back to intention, was not obviously.
Yes.
Is it
there's kinaya or sarikha?
Yes. Please don't give a person. Okay, we've got
so
that.
if we can just explain to the sender, so a talaq has to have two. There's two kinds of talaqs, if you will. The exact clear-cut wording. I give you a talaq, or those words that can be interpreted as a talaq, and in such an instance, the person has to declare what was his intention with those words. Some words are clear-cut. Go home and never come back to me. Those kind of things. But there's another important thing that happens in some scenarios and in a scene is that it's something called tafweed, making the lady responsible for her own talaq. There's a feature in that, in Sharia like that, where the husband says, if you walk out of that door, you consider yourself talaqed. If she walks out, she's actually talaqed. So it's very, very important how we phrase it, but also how we make it, and we must be clear in our intentions. Ons kan nie sê naked maar joke gemaak. I made a joke. It doesn't work in Sharia. There's Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says there's two things. If you serious, that is serious, and if you joking, that is still serious.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is the talaq and the nikah.
I heard of a brother. He travels overseas and so he doesn't want his wife to be walking around, and so he divorces his wife, right? Gives her talaq, and she has to now stay at home
Until he gets back.
Until he gets back.
Wow.
What kind of control is that?
That's
Wow.
madness, man.
That's abuse, actually. That's
But that's
exploitation.
well thought through, eh? Well thought through.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
you can only do it
exploitation
for a
of
certain
Sharia.
amount of time.
That's
Why certain amount
exploitation,
of
actually.
travels?
Yeah.
No, but it's really
That's crazy, yeah. Another question. It is said the husband can ask for a divorce in English or any language, or does it need to be in Arabic?
That's
then
right.
Ask for a divorce.
The sister gives the entire,
It's like a discussion, basically. That
Ask
I
for a
didn't
divorce.
understand. The husband doesn't ask for a divorce.
Yeah, he just issues. Maybe she means the sister can ask for a fasakh. Look, obviously everything has to be. There is mutual consent. If both parties agree, no, man, we can't. We okay not when we're not together, but we not okay when we're together. If there's mutual agreement, obviously the discussion, the outcome of it is you go your separate way, I go my way. Finish and clear, no problem with that. But I think maybe the sister might have
sister's confused.
been
Now, but
confused.
so basically, on all three scenarios, he said to her, I think the husband obviously he doesn't understand the process of talaq. He doesn't know he's got the right to give talaq. So he says,
okay.
I want a divorce. So on three occasions, he said,
right.
I want a divorce. She's now asking, are those 3 divorces that he gave me?
Okay.
Now,
We understand.
That's basira.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, also, Sheikh, there's lots of confusion. And I mean, people see this in the movies where the lady takes a ring off and throws it there.
What? Yes.
Yeah, what is that?
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't mean anything in our Sharia if you take a ring off.
This is an
your
interesting one.
finger.
He says, Salam, my friend's
So
daughter.
Maaf Moulana,
Okay,
you
go for
just satisfy that lady that the husband talking to you about divorce and saying that I want a divorce, I want out, that is not an issuance itself.
Yeah.
It is not a divorce, sister. You are still married and it is Thursday night tonight.
MashaAllah. But it's old questions.
Eh?
It's from 2019. I only see now.
Yes, I don't know. It was sent to me.
Salam, my friend's daughter is going through a talaq, but she wants to know what happens to the Maskavi as she requested that her husband pays her 500 rand per month for 7 years, and they were only married for 5 years.
Does
He
he
also-
owe that?
Do we have on debt?
Yeah,
Isn't
he
he
owes
skulking?
them.
Isn't he so?
Mashaykh, we're having load shedding at 10, and I would hate for us just to fall into
No, let us finish the
darkness.
questions, inshallah.
We've got 10 more minutes, eh?
Yeah.
I hope you're well, but okay, it saddens me to ask this question. What is the process for requesting a fasakh, or do I go to the MJC or local imam? I think we've
we
answered
went
that.
through it.
Yes.
I've asked for talaq, but the request was declined. I'm sure this would have been the easier option.
Yeah, of course.
Khair,
Yes.
inshallah, we've done with that. There's a lot of questions. Something has been in my mind for a while. Hope this will be allowed. When a pair talaq or a husband pass away, am I of the correct understanding that your mother and father-in-law stays your parents?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Also, does the same apply to your brothers and your sisters-in-law? Do they remain your brothers and sisters-in-law? Obviously, you can marry.
Well,
your-
she can marry the brother most
yeah,
now.
she can marry
Yes.
the brother. Yes, wees maar versigtig in daai regard.
Yes.
How does a woman observe Eid if she's under iddah due to talaq? How does she observe Eid?
I think Sharia has made provision for that. If she's in the company of a mahram, then we don't see her. You know, I was sitting with a senior alim, Allah yarham, Allah grant him Jannah
Ameen.
Firdaus, and he mentioned that we shouldn't see iddah or as a prison sentence. So yes, the lady, I mean, imagine she doesn't wish her mother on Eid. But if a brother fetches her or the son goes with her and he's a mahram, fabiya wa ni'ma, no problem with that. We shouldn't make Islam difficult on people.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
Khair, a few. There's a book that I would like to share with the scholars, inshallah. I came across a small little risala. It was a research risala where the alim from Saudi, he gathered all the asbabul fasq together. And then one by one, he went through it and he would mention the aqwal of the scholars on it. So he would say, is this a valid reason? Shafi madhab says no. In the Shafi madhab, there's a difference of opinion. The Hanafi madhab says this. Inshallah, I'll say. He mentions the 6 broad reasons, but obviously many of these reasons are mukhtala fiha. So unable to pay the mahar, unable to nafaqa, refusal to nafaqa, absence, he's missing, imprisonment, abuse, impotency.
Yes.
I'm not going to mention no sexual organ because even no sexual organ, castrated, okay, that's not very applicable. Mental illness. And the sister was unaware the brother is mentally ill, bipolar something, infectious illnesses,
AIDS
and so
HIV.
forth and so on. Yeah. So those are some of the
Not COVID.
yeah. So those are some of the reasons that he mentions, inshallah. But alhamdulillah, I think this was super beneficial.
Share the book with us, Moulana. You got a
will.
PDF of it?
I do. It says like a small 30-page
Mashaykh,
PDF.
a Muslim
Send it to me.
comes for a fasakh. Does the sheikh try to speak to her, wakil or wali, before coming to a conclusion?
Is it necessary? Because we must remember that the matter is now between the husband and wife. So if the wakil and wali has any influence on the matter or bearing on the matter, then it will be wise. But there's no need, because the matter is between husband and wife. She applied for the fasq. She has the reasons. She has the justifications, and therefore she needs to be dealt with, not the wakil or the wali.
Sheikh, Marvin, this is going to be my last for 50 cents in the plate. You speak about absence, and you know, a brother phoned me. I don't know if I phoned Moulana. A brother phoned me. He's a foreign national. He wanted to marry the sister. I asked, where's the wali? He says, no, the wali is. First, I asked, what's the mahar? He doesn't know what mahar is. His English is limited, right? Then I asked him, where's the wali? He says, no, the wali is deaf.
Oh, I understand.
Right? And
I remember
she
spoke to me about it, yes.
Then I told him, where's the girl? And then he told me, she's also deaf. I mean, he can't speak English. I can't understand his English. The girl isn't speaking at all. But then he phoned me, and then I tried to make his problem now somebody else's problem. Then I phoned somebody up, and this Imam told me, Sheikh, I don't marry foreign nationals. I have a rule. I don't marry them off to our sisters.
The locals here.
They run away. Unfortunately, this is a reality. This is a
reality.
reality. And he's also a marriage officer, so he said, no.
By law, we're not allowed to. Okay. Marriage officers are not allowed to marry foreign nationals by law. Law of the country. But by Shari'an, obviously, we can and should perform the nikah.
You said there's like some penalty?
Yeah, there's a fine. Well, not a penalty, there's a fine, yes. Yeah. We're not allowed to. But that Muslim marriage officers is it's a joke. But that's for another day, another time.
Wallah, closing remarks.
Khair, inshallah, this was super beneficial. I think our audience would love this episode. Final advices, inshallah. Don't give more than 3 talaqs in one go. No, one will suffice, inshallah.
One is as good as 3.
Bullet is genoeg soos 3. Inshallah.
Why shoot a dead man?
Yeah. Number 2, don't.
I think they watch too much The Godfather, man. You know that.
Okay, the Godfather.
Empty the guy into the guy's dead already.
Number 2, don't talaq in a state, when your wife is experiencing hate. Besides, it is haram. Emotions are high. People are perhaps sexually frustrated. Things happen and then they regret it later. And consult your local bodies. Don't go to the Imam with a dusty fatwa kitab looking for a mas'ala over there. Go to your, as Moulana mentioned, go to your local body of scholars. I think because the object is to ensure objectivity, people not, we don't want the Imam, to make ukhis with the sister.
You don't want the blame all on your own or something.
Yeah.
Why would you take
And it's super difficult.
Yes, no,
when that sister starts crying, it's over.
Yes.
You are compromised from the get-go.
Yes. And what if that husband is the leader of the gang?
Oh, yeah, Allah.
Which has
happened.
I have a rule,
which has happened.
I don't go to people's houses.
Yes, same here. Same
you
here.
come to me because when I just started in Mitchell's Plain, they shot that other Moulana.
Yes,
and he was involved with a divorce case, right?
Yeah.
He issued the fasq.
And
the senior Moulana told him, don't do it.
Yes.
And he did not listen.
Yes.
The brother came out of prison and he shot him.
Yeah, so my masjid office, that's my castle, that's my palace. I absolutely. It's you play by my rules. But I think we've had an interesting program, inshallah.
We just want to say Jazakumullah khairan to Shaykh Moulana Sabrie for this very beautiful. I think it was beyond what we expected. Alhamdulillah, it was beautiful. Very, 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 very informative. Alhamdulillah. Any final words, Moulana?
Well, you've said it all, Moulana. Jazakumullah khairan. Jummah Mubarak. Final words.
And shukran very much for Moulana being such a sport. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi
wa barakatuh.
هلا بالخميس هلا بالخميس ويكند عيال هلا بالخميس هلا بالخميس هلا بالخميس ويكند عيال